We changed the world. A small town from the north of England with a great tradition. Change the world.
Yes, good evening and welcome to the second ever 606 Seasiders podcast, where we will be reviewing Blackpool's 2-0 win over Swindon Town today. So make sure you leave your comments, join the conversation if you can, and we'll make sure there's plenty of interaction as possible. And we do have two people already in the group chat, so we'll bring in both of those. First of all, we got Matt Smith. How are you, Matt?
Hi, Sam. Good, mate. How are you?
No, I'm not too bad. Better after that result and a better performance today from Blackpool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thought we were a little bit shaky in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but then we sort of got into the game quite quickly and tried to stamp our authority on it. And I think we were worthy winners, if not with a couple of little worries in between. But that's to be expected in a what is a novice side of ours, really, still. Yeah,
I'm going to say plenty of positives going forward, and we'll come on to that very shortly. But another guest joining us this evening, Tim Fielding. Tim, great to have you on the show. What are your thoughts today on Blackpool's 2-0 win?
Very, very pleased. It was, I think, as Matt just said, it was a slightly shaky start, a bit concerning about that. And again, I think Swindon are quite a good side. So the fact that we didn't impose ourselves on the game right from the start isn't perhaps too surprising, but very, very pleasing.
One player that obviously stood out, picked man at the match, the award today, was CJ Hamilton. What were your thoughts on his performance, especially?
He's fantastic, isn't he? I mean, he's actually, when he's on form, he's unstoppable, and a bit unlucky not to get a hat-trick. Personally, I think there's another contender for man of the match, if not two. But it's great to have players playing at the top of the game. For me, I'm sure we're going to come on to discuss it plenty, but I felt Mitchell was man of the match today, and I think he just edged out CJ and Robson. But equally, that's not to take anything away from CJ's performance, because he was a serious handful.
Yeah, he certainly was a player. Obviously, looking to get his first goal for Blackpool, and when we actually look, we'll bring in Joe, who's waiting in the studio at the moment. But his first goal was a great piece of skill to beat the defender, and on his weak foot. Maybe the keeper could have done better when I've looked at it back on the highlights, but again, you've got to have that shot on target for it to go in, and just what Blackpool deserved after really pressing forward, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. CJ Hamilton, the thing that he's got obviously in his locker is pace, and pace can kill anybody at any level, and even in not quite the very top level, but the decent level, obviously, that we are. There's fullbacks that are going to have nightmares against him all season if he stays fit, and hopefully, as he's done so far, he seems to have found the net quite well. So these are things that we were talked or told about by Mansfield fans in particular, that he didn't have much of an end product, but he's done all right so far for us.
Go on. You were about to say something?
I was just going to agree with Matt. Really, I mean, it's. When the one thing that we've definitely seen from CJ since he joined us is the end product, isn't it? At Liverpool, and again today, he's got goal side of his man, and he's finished with aplomb, and that's what we want. And it's going to be he's going to score a lot of goals in this division. I think if he can, as long as he can keep playing the way he's doing, he's going to be right up there with the top strikers in the league.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in Joe, who's great to have you on the show, Joe. I'm guessing you're a very happy Blackpool fan this evening.
Yeah, absolutely delighted. I thought the performance was probably on a par, if slightly better than last week. I thought Swindon were a much better team than Plymouth. I thought, especially first half, they looked pretty dangerous. But after a shaky 5-10 minutes or so, again, I thought we were the better team throughout and thoroughly deserved the win. Could have been more than 2-0. Should have been more than 2-0, in fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. Created so many chances, especially in the second half, I thought. And we were just talking there about CJ Hamilton's performance. It's got to be up there, isn't it? And again, going to need these players who are going to really push up the league table.
Yeah, I thought he was outstanding. For me, probably man of the match, just by the virtue that he got a couple of goals. I thought Mitchell was outstanding, especially going forward at left back. I thought Robson had a good game. I thought Ekpiteta had a good game at the back as well.
Again, we'll come on to talk to these players very shortly. But how important was it to get that goal, Matt, just before half-time? Because, again, the game was in that kind of transition period. Both teams were trying to get that first goal, but obviously it came to Blackpool and just a great time to score.
Yeah, it was. And, scoring before half-time is, it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it, in terms of going in at half-time, 1-up and so on. But, we deserved it. And like everyone's said, Swindon are certainly no mugs, and I think they'll probably surprise a lot of teams this year. The way they play football, if nothing else, actually, coming up from League Two. And, they're well set up. But we deserve to be 1-0 up just about at half-time. And you'll probably touch on the first few minutes of the second half shortly as well. But yeah, good to get in at half-time 1-up. Definitely the first, I think, for us for a long time.
So obviously, we're going to, Matt brought us in nicely there to the second goal. Again, so important to get that goal straight after half-time. I think it was the 47th minute he got it, and a well-taken goal, ball over the top by Turton. And again, just great composure when he's got in the box there to finish it low past the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think, again, pace takes him away from the defender, doesn't it? He does a nice cut inside and then no messing about. He drills it, and he drills it into the near post. There's the old adage that a keeper shouldn't be beaten at his near post, but you can understand it when a shot's hit. It was hit with power, and it was hit with precision. And I think it probably caught the keeper slightly unaware, because I think he was probably expecting him to try and curl it in the other way. And but yeah, great finish. And to be honest, I think that knocked the stuffing out of them. I mean, we were listening to their commentary, work with the Wiltshire commentary, and they were, eulogising about CJ and Mitchell in particular. And I just think they realised that when they went 2-0, it was going to be a very, very difficult road back from them. Because to be fair to Swindon, they had the chances, and they went on to have other chances as well, didn't they? Which on another day would have gone in. That I can't remember. Was it Payne with the first one or Smith? I think it was Smith, wasn't it?
Yeah, with the first chance.
Smith. Yeah. It was Smith with the first one. And to be fair, he hit that so well. And when he hit it, I think we all thought it was going in. And then obviously we saw the one that came back off the upright, didn't we? And came across the goal, which is quite unfortunate. So, we were in a game today. This was not a run of the mill win by any stretch of the imagination. Because I think looking at that today, they'll be top half.
Joe, going to Hamilton, he could have easily had a hat-trick, maybe could have squared it to Yates, who was 5 yards out. But again, when you're on a hat-trick, Joe, you don't want to pass those chances up, do you?
Oh, no. I mean, the guy's full of confidence. He scored 2, and I have no problem with not, especially when you're 2-0 up and you're on a hat-trick. You've got to go for it, haven't you?
Yeah, you certainly do. And Tim, would you have passed that one in your prime or not?
Was it? I thought it was Mitchell who had that. Was it not?
There was one later on that Mitchell had, and the keeper saved it. But I thought it was the Hamilton at first. I could be wrong. Okay.
I thought it was Mitchell who the one where we had 4-on-1.
Yeah, there was one 4-on-1. It was what's he called? It came on. Medine had the cross where he failed to get it to across to the box, but there was one where it was him and Yates up top, and he failed to.
All right, I'm mixing them up a little bit maybe then, but I mean, anybody who's on the hat trick, I'm not going to have a pop for them not passing. And listen, it's great that we've got players up there and who are all vying to get on the end of these shots, because I think the disappointing thing probably at Plymouth last week was that we didn't create perhaps as many chances as we should do, and we did. I thought we perhaps corrected that today whilst playing a team at least equivalent to the team we played last week. And I was still quite worried after the first 15. I was a bit concerned we weren't settling down. And I think Mitchell settled us down well. I think he brought the ball down and was positive and went forward and drove the ball. And I think we had Robson who just took the sting out of them a little bit just by playing sensible football. And then I think as the game went on, we got more and more into it and had more and more influence over proceedings. And how good was it? How good was it actually hearing fans in the ground? I know it was minimal, but bloody hell, when you've gone the time that we've all gone, everybody, not just Blackpool fans, with this very sterile atmosphere, even having a few in there makes a big difference. And when we double that and treble that and quadruple that, which hopefully we will be doing in the coming games, it's going to be a hell of a lot better to watch, isn't it?
It was the first thing that I actually noticed. Sorry for interrupting. It was the first thing I noticed when the game started was when the players came out, even though there was only 1,000 and they were all sparsely spread out, there was a massive roar. And, like you said, it's been, 6-7 months since like our last home game, and watching the games on TV with no fans, you either have the silence or the talking of the players, and either that or piped in, which for me is just as bad. And just to have some fans at the game was absolutely fantastic. And I think they played a part today as well, I really do.
I was going to come on to and ask Matt about that. How important would the fans have been to the players? Obviously, they've had used to pre-season games with no fans there and the manager shouting at them maybe constantly, but today it must have been a huge impact for the players. Yeah,
absolutely. It was obviously a different watching and listening experience for us from the past few months, which has been, like you say, sterile at best, really. So for those who went today, they were extremely lucky for a start and very vocal as well, which was great. Although there was a point during the second half when Swindon were on top, I was sort of shouting at my own screen, hoping that they would listen to me to start backing the lads a bit more, because it just got a bit quiet. But it was hopefully just the start of what we all need, and that's to get back into the ground in more numbers.
There's a vicious rumor going around that one fan managed to miss the second goal. I don't know who it could have been.
I wonder who that could be. If you were that fan who missed it, please get in touch. I'm sure it might be on the WhatsApp group very soon. But I was going to come on to kind of moving on that slightly topic of positives, and well done to all associated with Blackpool for getting this game on and allowing fans into the ground, and hopefully at the other games as well. It was a huge success. One positive for me was the defending. I'll start with you, Joe. What were your thoughts on the back two? A bit nervous last week, but I thought today it was kind of no nonsense defending. When they got the ball, if they could play out, they did. If not, they went route one.
Yeah, I especially think Ekpiteta had a really good game. Stayed on his feet when he needed to, slid in when he needed to as well. I think as fans, we've got to be patient. Nottingham and Ekpiteta, they're a new partnership. It's going to take time for them to gel. As with the entire team, it's not going to happen overnight. Also got to be patient, as a lot of our players are very, very young. We've got a very young, there's no old, experienced heads as of yet in the squad. So mistakes are going to happen. But yeah, today I thought the back four, as well as, especially the centre-backs, dealt with things very, very well.
Tim, and Nottingham maybe should have made it 2-0 just for the break, a glancing header. I think a few people were saying it's 50p head just before, but a great chance.
It ended up staying in there. Was he on the floor? I think he was. I
can't remember what happened. I must have looked down
I think he was on the floor at one point, and I think the defence had almost forgotten he was there. To be honest, when the ball came in, I thought he must be offside, but clearly he wasn't. And you've got to say that it was a chance, wasn't it? I think if he connected with it slightly better, it was in. But yeah, I thought him and Ekpiteta did a job today. Do I think they're the long-term solution? Jury's out on that one for me. But they did the job today, and I think they can hold the head up high in the way they both played.
Matt, bar the two chances that stand out for me for Swindon, obviously Johnny Smith in the first half, just in that 15-minute period we were on about before, and then Hallam Hope at one later on, which we all thought was in when it hit the post and came out the other way. Bar that, they really didn't have much to deal with, did they, the two centre-halves?
No, not really. We were, we defend from the front, which obviously makes their lives a lot easier. I thought in the first half, I thought Nottingham's distribution was a little bit iffy at times, putting the midfield into a few periods of jeopardy, shall we say. And whereas Marvin, I thought, like Joe, I thought he had a great game, and and Mitchell in particular. The strength of Mitchell is similar to Hamilton. It's his pace, isn't it? He can just cut inside, and before you know it, he's past the halfway line. And he's going to be such an asset to us, because I've got a feeling he's going to be quite sort of flexible in the squad as well. I think he could play a lot further forward. So, whether somebody, if we're missing Kai and Labala, for example, then he could easily slot in there when they're missing him. Maybe if Husband's fit, he could play behind him. But I don't remember much else that Swindon sort of threw at us, really, that was so-called dangerous. They obviously had a little bit of pressure. They had a 10-minute spell in the second half, but that's to be expected.
Yeah, definitely was. And talking about Mitchell there, Joe, a great signing for Blackpool, and like Matt said there, very versatile, could play higher up, and just got that pace to burn, and no defender wants to play against someone with that amount of pace.
Yeah, he's like a young Marvin Bryan.
I'm not sure I know who you're on about, but I'm going to go.
I thought he was absolutely fantastic. The one thing that did make me laugh from today's game, I was listening to it on the away team's commentary.
I think most did.
Their shot that hit the post. They thought, "Oh, what a goal!" before it's even got in. It was like a bit weird, but there you go.
Well, yeah, again, good. I think most were listening to the away commentary. Not sure the full reasons why, but it was very good, to be fair. Credit to the BBC radio guys down there.
The timing was out, wasn't it? On, I think, whether you watched the home commentary or the
it
away
was
commentary.
Well ahead.
Yeah,
the commentary was ahead of the picture.
Yeah, I think it was worse on the home commentary than it was on the away. Although they did mention our goal before it hit the back of the net, but otherwise you didn't notice it as much on the away commentary, I don't think.
No, I was having to mute the commentary every time anybody was about 25 yards out from goal, because I didn't want to know what was going on. So it was a little bit like that, really. But I did have, I think Chisnell in the first half said, he was talking about CJ Hamilton, who went past a player like a dose of salt. I remember him saying that one, and I was not quite sure he's got that one right there, but never mind.
No, we'll let him off on that one, won't we? We'll see how they go along the season. Just a few comments coming in. Tangerine Knights, who's the Alan Carr lookalike? Daz Humphreys says pace kills teams at any levels. Completely agree with that one. Gary Ford says, great to be back. First half, a bit slow, but should have won by more. In the end, Mitchell should have squared it to Yates. Again, I apologise. It was me who was wrong, thinking it was Hamilton. And another good chance later on as well from Robson. Really impressed with the work rate of the players. And that's something that we're going to see from this side this season, Matt, is that we're going to high press teams, and the amount of times we caught Swindon out, like you said, we could have scored more goals than just the two today. Yeah,
you think that's going to be, this is, the overarching sort of plan that Critchley's going to bring in, isn't it? That, you're going to have to work hard. We're going to high press. We're not going to give any teams any rest whatsoever. So it's going to be exciting to watch, and hopefully as the season progresses, our fitness levels will grow, and whoever comes in and whoever plays can do that, constantly for the 90 minutes, which would be great to see.
Just a comment here, Steve Jenkinson. He was live at the game today, so he was one of the lucky 1,000 Blackpool fans who were out inside the ground. Hope you enjoyed it there, Steve. But he also goes on to say it was a bit like a reserve game, though. Missed the tall man, Mr. Tallman for Yates. Oh, sorry, Mr. Tallman for Yates to run on. So I'm guessing he's talking about kind of Nangele and someone in the box there. But talking about Yates there, what Steve brings up. What do you think of his performance today? Last week, I'm quite critical, and we'll bring Tom in a second. He was the same. I thought he had a bit of a better game today, mainly focal up top, Tim, but again was able to bring players in and really be something for Blackpool.
I think he was targeted by Swindon a bit as well for some choice tackling. Just a reminder as to where they maybe thought his loyalty should have lay. But I thought he had a better game today. I thought he led the line well, and because they were focusing on him, perhaps it gave CJ and Bez on the other side a little bit more license to get down the wing. So I want him to get a goal. I think he's the type of player who, once he gets one, will probably get two or three in quite quick succession. But I don't think there's any complaints about the way he played today.
Yeah, Joe, any thoughts on Yates's performance this afternoon?
Just echo what Tim said, really. He held the ball very well. Whenever he did get the old ending running, he was very cynically brought down by the Swindon defenders. Who were, yeah, I think Tim's right. I think they did single him out for the treatments there.
What I want to do is bring in Tom Main, who was on the preview show yesterday. Where's he gone now? Oh, looks like Nick's gone. If that's right, and Nick, thank you. I can get him in, Nick. Matt, sorry for joining us this evening. Tom, great to have you on the show again. We're just talking about Yates there and his performance. I know we're very critical last week and on the show a little bit last night, but what did you make of his performance today?
Yeah, just echoing what the other two have just said as well. He's really busy, which meant the two wingers, I think, Bez grew into the game really well. So he was chasing down the ball and he was working tirelessly, and he kept more central, which was much needed, because we said last night if he kept central, the other two wingers can then play. So I thought CJ from the off was absolutely superb, and Bez, after sort of a poor first 20 minutes, really grew into the game as well. So Bez reminded me a bit of what CJ was like last week, just not clinical enough. So I think Yates doing all the hard work allowed those two to play really well.
What were your kind of thoughts after the final whistle gone? Just great to get that first 3 points of the season.
Yeah, relieved,
Tom,
but relieved for Critchley as well to get the first win, but we definitely deserved it. I think we said last night, if we settle the first 20 minutes, I think we'll be okay. And actually, that is exactly how it panned out. So I think the team worked really well together, and it was just fantastic to get that opening goal to sort of calm the nerves, because that's what we needed last week, and it didn't happen. I thought, despite the obvious sort of stand-up performances like CJ, etc., I thought Grant Moore today, after I said Virtue should come in yesterday, he was absolutely incredible today, as well as Mitchell. So those two players for me were incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to move on. We'll read this comment from Sean. He said it's nice to have a striker that, when the goals are dried up, still offers so much more to the game like Yates does. Brought so many into play this afternoon and could offer a bit more physicality too as well. So again, not just going to be his goals this season. We see the likes of Firmino in Liverpool's formation. Maybe doesn't get the goals, but again, his work rate when he's not on the ball, Tim, is noticed by fans and players around him.
Yeah, I think he's had a good game today. You know, he passed the ball well. He interacted with the other midfield players. And, again, he's somebody who can look at himself in the mirror tonight and know he's putting a shift. I think the three in midfield generally all had a good game. I think Robson was the standout of the three. Just from the way he just broke things up and did the simple things, which is so important for any team, that you've got somebody who's got the ability to do that, and a little bit like Spearing did in a way, but for me better, and probably with a better engine on him. So, but Grant's growing on me. I wasn't convinced last season, I've got to say.
Yeah, he's one of those players, I think, that sometimes he can be out of games, you don't notice him, but I thought today he broke up with the play, really pressed high. And we talk about Robson as well there. Matt, he's just going to be so important. I think in the first podcast when we were my first podcast reviewing players we signed, he signed that day, and I said he was going to be a Vaughan type player who's going to do the dirty work that people kind of don't notice or too much. But again, I thought it was outstanding today. Broke up the play, gave the ball to players, and just kept it simple. Yeah,
I think I've been really impressed with Robson. Obviously, we've not seen anything of him before, and what seems to be good about him is that he's got a lot of assets to his game. You know, he can get stuck in. He likes a challenge. That seems to be fair enough. But he's also got a good range of passing as well. So he's quite a neat and tidy player. He's definitely going to be an asset. And I think, just going back to Grant Ward, I think he did have a good game today. Again, you know, if you've got somebody who can break up an attack and then, you know, put us immediately on the front foot, that's what we need, really, instead of, you know, players who can win the ball and then it just goes sideways and backwards all the time. We do seem to have bit of a sort of a forward-thinking mentality, which is really good.
Joe, your thoughts on Robson? Are you surprised that Sunderland, where they are in the kind of the Football League standings, are you surprised they've let a Robson type player leave their club? Great for Blackpool though.
Yeah, a little bit. Got a few mates that support Sunderland, and they were, when he left, they were a little bit surprised. He's always been one of the players that was on the peripheral at the Stadium of Light. And whether he'd get a chance, he'd usually get injured, and that kind of put an end to his time there. And I got asked how he played today, and I thought he was outstanding. Like Tim says, probably the best of the midfield three. He just keeps things ticking over in the middle. Very much for me, he's an upgrade from Speary. I know Speary had a lot of fans, and I thought Speary was an easy player for us, but I really do see Robson as potentially a cuttable Speary.
Just a comment coming in. Marcus Mackay just said, has anyone mentioned Keshi, assuming you're getting superlatives for Ward mixed up? Again, Keshi Anderson, under the radar, but again, the three midfielders we all spoke about, Tom, before, all had a good game, and Robson just stood out that little bit more to me in that three midfield.
Tom, Keshi worked really hard all game. I think Keshi worked really hard all game. I don't know if I've got the way he plays, because he usually plays out on the wing for Swindon. Centrally, he worked up and down, so more box-to-box midfielder, where I maybe saw him as a number 10 behind him, but I really like the way he plays. So, yeah, him, Robson and Ward, superb today. And, yeah, he worked tirelessly again, and he was a pain in the backside for Swindon's midfield. And his stamina versus, I think, Ward, the big lad that we supposedly going to sign, ran out of steam at the end, but Keshi sort of ran rings around him, and he came off at the right time for me. And it was good tactics from Critchley to bring him off when he did. But again, he was one of those guys that we desperately needed in midfield, and broke up the play really well.
Matt, we've spoke so much about the positives. Going away to Gillingham next weekend, never an easy place to go to, but after this performance, I must be looking forward to that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Heck of a long trip, obviously. Not quite sure what the arrangements are these days with travel for clubs, whether they'll stay overnight somewhere or just have a breakdown, and train the day before somewhere, Oxford way or what have you. So it's going to be a tough game. I noticed they won away at Wigan today. Obviously, we're not quite sure what state Wigan are in currently, but equally they'll be positive because they've got the first win, I think, under the belt also. But I think we'll take a lot out of that today. As a young bunch of players, I think they'll be really looking forward to the challenge, I'm sure.
Tim, how important was, I know we briefly, but how important was getting that first win? Neil Critchley's first win as Blackpool boss, obviously 2 games before lockdown. I was talking about competitive football. I lost last weekend, but to bounce back in front of 1,000 home fans, was that the right response today?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think even Plymouth would probably recognise that they were quite lucky to win last week, and you wouldn't want, we'd be a bit despondent, wouldn't we, if we were still on 0 points after today, after playing the way we played last week, and again the way we played this week. So yeah, it's great to get off the mark. It's great to be above Fleetwood for one. They managed to throw away their a potential away win
2
very late
goals
on in the day. So that's great, and and it gives us a lot of positivity going into the next few games. Just I did want to interject, but just on Robson, actually, to answer a question you posed earlier, I asked one of my friends who's a Sunderland fan why they let Robson go, because as I said, we seem to have got a really good player, and he said Parkinson didn't fancy him. Obviously, as you can imagine with Sunderland, they've got quite a lot of central midfielders anyway. He went out on loan to Grimsby last season, and reports were good, but they had too many salaries, so they decided to release him. Obviously, as we get into financial fair play and budgeting. So he said he'll do well and probably score against them. So just a little bit of insight from Sunderland, because you look at him, you think, why the hell have they let him go? And it would probably appear to be a case of too many players around the club, and people aren't necessarily given the chances as a result.
I guess you do look at that, but now he's got his chance, Joe. as Robson to really shine. And someone on social media, I think it was Twitter, during the game just said could be the signing of the season. Again, maybe not someone who's going to get the goals, Joe, but how important is he going to be in Blackpool's midfield this season?
Absolutely massive, especially with Spearing leaving. He's for me, he's, like I said, he's a massive upgrade for me. I think he's got absolutely bags of potential. Got him for nothing as well, which is an added bonus. And I think the fact that he's young, he's hungry, and he'll be wanting to prove his way in football. All he's really had is the odd sporadic appearance for Sunderland and that loan spell at Grimsby. So he'll be desperate to prove Sunderland wrong for letting him go, because I believe that was his boy club, and to kick his own career on.
Tom, I think there's a slight delay, so there might be a few seconds where it's quiet. But we talked there before about Neil Critchley getting his first win. We've not listened to his post-match interview yet, but he'll just be delighted, won't he, to get that out of the way. Kind of the, what do you say, monkey off the back, shall we say. Games against, I think it was Tranmere on Tuesday, Fleetwood away, and obviously last week against Plymouth. But to get a win against a team who were newly promoted, got momentum from winning League Two title last season, he'll want to push forward now, won't he, and get that next win, keep the games coming, and like we said, Gillingham next weekend.
Yeah, I said last night, he comes across as someone who will stay calm and he'll keep injecting his message into the players. And I think today it showed that the players had taken on board his mentality. And I thought just overall today, you can probably name every player on the pitch that had a really good spell. And it was really nice to see that the whole team come together, especially the back four. So he'll be relieved, and I think he's the kind of person to already be focus on Gillingham and sort of reflect on today's game, but really have his plan in place for next weekend. And I think he was just driven like that. He seems to be very reassured and positive in a very sort of subdued way. So I like him. I really do. I think we'll begin to love him more and more as the season goes on. But he's a calm personality, and I think that's very important in football.
Matt, do you agree with what Tom's saying there, that he's a very calm person on the touchline, very opposite to maybe Richie Wellens, who is in the obviously Swindon dugout this afternoon? But again, we've got to believe in his philosophy, the way he wants to play, because if we can keep improving as weeks go on, we are going to see results come through.
Yeah, hopefully. I think he's more of a measured sort of guy, isn't he? He's not one to be, throwing water bottles around or anything like that on the halfway line. Certain fans who, as more and more get into the ground, will either like that or not like that. Some people tend to prefer the managers to be a little bit more vociferous. But ultimately, if he can get the best out of the players and get results, then he can do what he wants on the touchline. For me, quite frankly, but he's certainly stamping his authority on what seems to be the way he wants to play football, and the players so far, they seem to be positive in their reactions to that.
Tim, we were talking, I think it was last week or during the week, about having a manager that we have faith in and really believe in, and we're going to see that with Critchley, aren't we? As the season goes on, bringing in players, working more with them on the training ground. Let's be honest, he's not had a long time with the players due to all the COVID and not actually being on the training ground. But do you think with time will tell in terms of what is actually the final products? We're nowhere near that, are we, at the moment?
No, I don't think we are. And I think particularly the defence is a work in progress. But you can see the way he wants to play. You can see the transfer strategy. The one thing that I noticed as well towards the end of today was we seem to have an extra gear that last 15, 20 minutes. And I suspect that's down to the training regime, because I know from what I've read about Liverpool that they train as hard, if not harder, than any team that you ever come across. And I'm sure that philosophy will be something that Critchley has brought with him to Blackpool. And I noticed it this afternoon, probably more than I've noticed it in any other game, that we seem to have that extra stride in us. And hopefully that's something that's going to see us secure a few wins late on in the day, because, the team that's got that little bit extra, that can sometimes be the difference between getting a draw and getting a win, or losing and snatching that draw. So I'm very, very positive. I remain positive. I was positive after last week. You obviously, you get your wind comes out of your sails a bit because you think you're going to automatically sort of romp that game. But we have played two good sides already, I think, and I think we've shown what we can do, and I have no reason for changing my prediction as to where I think we'll finish in the league.
Looks like you've got someone who completely agrees with your talk about fitness there. I'm able to go into that other strides of Steve. Thank you very much for your comments in there. Joe, we talked there about Critchley again and that style of play. One comment that's come in from Jacko. Anyone can see this on the screen. I thought it was a real good team performance with all playing a part, even the subs in their short cameos. Williams came on in midfield and shored us up a little bit in there. And again, we were able to rotate these players, but the transfer window's still open. And it's great that we've got these players to come on and even see out a 2-0 result. And we'd still create chances, Joe. And like we said before, could have been 3 or 4.
Yeah, we could have easily won that game for me, 4 or 5-0, and it wouldn't have flattened us. We're outstanding. As you said, people that came on, Williams did a job. Even Gary Goals came on and looked pretty lively, held the ball up well. So, yeah, all bowling very well. It's great that we've got that little bit of a bounce back from the Plymouth result. I saw a lot of overreaction on Twitter from a fair few. Just trust the process. I trust Neil Critchley. I think he's the man for us. And I definitely think we're going to have a very, very good season. Mainly because most of us won't be able to go and bloody watch it.
Just what Matt said before, wasn't it? We talked that we touched on obviously moving forward and players coming in. Do you think we still need a centre half? I know we touched on slightly the defenders before, Matt, but do you think we still need to go out in the transfer market and bring in maybe 1 or 2 players, not just at the back, but maybe another striker? Or
yeah, I think definitely a centre half. Absolutely. I think if one of the 2 lads who are in there currently were injured or suspended, sent off at Gillingham, for example, next week, then we'll be instantly we're struggling in terms of central defenders. So we need to move fairly quickly, I would think, on that one. I'd like us to get that, and perhaps another striker in as well. Mainly because the way that Critchley is trying to set up his team, you think you just want as much time as possible with them to come in and gel and get onto the training ground and so on and so forth. There might be players out there that can just come in and stroll into any team that wants them. But I think it'd be interesting if we can get somebody in sooner rather than later. And obviously we've done a lot of business ahead of anybody else this season. So there's no reason why we can't be sort of front of that queue again and get who we want as opposed to what just happens to be available.
Tom, do you share those thoughts of Matt there in terms of if we can bring those 2 or 3 other players in, settle ourselves down till January and then go again?
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, I said to you, it shows our strength and depth when Virtue's not in the team and Husband's not in the squad. That when you look at the subs bench, or there's a couple of decent players on there, we need that quality to come onto the pitch. And Joe touched on Nadine doing really well today, and I agree. But I think we need that quality on the pitch when it comes on, when it really matters, because I don't think you can rely on what's on the bench all the time. So just to have that strength and depth, especially at centre half. I think the 2 lads did really well today, polar opposite to last week. But we need someone to come in, and if there was a suspension or injury, that we're going to be pretty solid at the back. And at the moment, we haven't got that, so it's definitely needed.
Yeah, we're going to move slightly on to managers' reactions. We'll start off with Swindon. Wellens said to Sky after the game that we were very good up until Blackpool's first goal. I thought we were the better footballing team, but they were very good in transition. Tim, what are your thoughts on Richie Wellens' comments there?
I think probably in the first 30 minutes they were the better side. So I'm not too far away from what he has to say. But I think he's perhaps been a bit harsh on us because I think we were the better footballing side overall, and particularly in the second half. So I think we did. I think we were good in transition. I think when we got the ball, we broke quickly. We used the pace, and that helped us secure the victory. So, bearing in mind it's the opposition manager, reasonably fair comments, I would say. apart from about them being the better team.
Joe, what are your thoughts? I can see you smiling there in the corner of the screen.
Wellens, innit? That's all I'm going to say.
Matt, what are your thoughts to Welland's comments there? Do you agree that they were the better footballing side? I agree they had maybe up to 20, 25 minutes in the game where they looked to press, but I thought that was Blackpool's more game management, that they've got to attack, they've got the goals, and now they're sitting back to reserve a bit of energy to go for that last push, which we did see. What are your thoughts on the comments? Yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt that Swindon are a good footballing side. We've now seen that, and the first half in particular showed that. They were, quite high risk at the back as well. Obviously, they like to play a bit of a footballing keeper, trying to dribble out with his centre halves and all that sort of carry on, which got them into trouble once or twice. And that's obviously the way that they'll carry on playing. It's sort of to be expected from Richie Wellens, which I think is what Joe was alluding to. But yeah, he's got to be confident, and he's got to act that he's confident in his players, and he wants them to play the same way again the following week, whoever it is that they play. But equally, I think that the difference between the two sides in the main was the fact that when they had the ball in the sort of the middle of the park, they weren't as quick in getting more progressiveness towards the opposition penalty areas we were, and that's obviously going to be critical come the end of the season, hopefully.
Well, Joe, like we said before, it really could have been a different game if I think it was Johnny Smith converts that first chance in the 13th minute. If that goes in, again, it's a completely different game, and Wellens could well and truly be on the side who have won the game today. But again, it's all about taking your chances in League One, isn't it? Or any league you're playing in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we took our chances at Plymouth last week, we'd have easily won. Do you know what I mean? If my auntie had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. It's all relative, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's about putting your chances away. And we put a couple of our numerous chances away, and they didn't. So, swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Tim, we saw some of the goals yesterday that Swindon scored last weekend against Rochdale in their 3-1 win. And what was noticeable yesterday on the preview show was they were trying to play out from the back. And we saw that so many times. But the high press that Blackpool have done over pre-season and in the game so far, that was important. It was on show today, wasn't it? Just to get at them and show that it's not going to be easy like Rochdale. It's going to be a completely different kettle of fish. And again, we could have scored chances from those mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the goals. I don't think Rochdale are going to be any great shakes this year. I suspect they're going to be cannon fodder. We, as Wellens has indicated, we were good in transition where we took the ball from them, where we didn't just sit back and let them have it. We were in their faces and we were hassling and trying to get hold of the ball and then moving it forward quickly. And I don't think they reacted particularly well to that. And that's no doubt something that Richie will reflect on. But he's one of the reasons I think we've gone and looked at players from his team is because they play football the right way and they play football the way that we intend to play. And I think that's, to be fair, I think that's to his credit. He played, and I think his comments are fair-ish. And I'm sure they're going to win plenty of games this season.
Yeah, definitely going to win more than they lose. I think the way they play. But Matt, what I was going to say is that it would have been great to have more than 1,000 Blackpool fans in there because well and truly would have felt the force of the Tangerine Army, wouldn't he?
Yeah, it would have got a nice seaside welcome, no doubt. And let's hope we get. Well, actually, let's hope we don't get the opportunity because we'll be in a different division than them next time. But I think we hope that today went well, not just at our ground, but obviously the other half a dozen or so grounds that were involved in these test events today, in the hope that we can, obviously increase it to maybe 2,000 or 3,000 next time. I'm not quite sure what the plans are, but lucky for those 1,000, and let's hope the one or two of them who were closer to him than others did give him a little bit of a warm welcome.
A few comments in before we go and see what Neil Critchley had to say after the game. Others, the cliche machine. We've got Steve Jenkinson as well. Says, great to listen to you guys. Off to celebrate with a few beers. We'll count for the next podcast. So yeah, it should be maybe one during the week. We'll have to see if John's back from his little trip away for that. But definitely tune in next Friday for the preview ahead of Gillingham. Neil Critchley, as we said, also spoke to the media. I'm going to read a little bit from the Gazette website. That's where I've got it from. But he says, I'm delighted to get that first win. It's nice to get the 3 points and get off the board with a couple of goals and a clean sheet. I think over the 90 minutes, we deserved to be the winners of the game. It was 2 really good goals from CJ and 2 different goals as well. He went on the outside for the first one and scored with his right foot, and then came back on his left to score the second one. Pace is hard to stop. He'll get all the plaudits from the game, but I think there was others with outstanding performances on the pitch as well. Tim, your thoughts on Critchley's comments?
I think what comes out from it is that he's probably sense of a little bit of relief. I don't think he'd have wanted to go into a third game without a win. And, it sets us up nicely. Everybody's finding the feet in this division, aren't they? And when we get perhaps to 7, 8, 10 games, we want to make sure that we're in or around the top end of the division. And I think he will see today's sort of that we're on the right lines effectively, and that I think he can see that the fruit of all the effort and all the planning that he's put in is actually going to be there. So he'd be pleased. He'll enjoy tonight. He'll do whatever you do, watch Match of the Day or whatever, and he'll be quite happy with his and his team's efforts.
Joe, do you share the same views there? Again, clean sheet, all important for Blackpool today.
Yeah, in particular, I'm delighted for Critchley because there's a bit of an overreaction on Twitter and certain message boards, I thought, over last week's defeat. He's just got his feet under the table. He only had 2 games before the season got curtailed last season with the whole coronavirus thing. He's had to rip up and rebuild a complete new squad from scratch, more or less. I think he's doing a great job. I think, no matter what happens this season, the guy needs time. He's building a squad from complete scratch and implementing his blueprint on the team. Today was a massive step in the right direction, and I hope that gets the small minority of fans that were starting to get a bit touchy off his back.
Me myself there. Matt, Joe said there about obviously the blueprint, what he's wanting to bring in. He's only been in the job for 4 competitive games now. He won't have had much time on the training ground, but the clean sheet today and moving forward, like I said, he'll be delighted with that. And just to get that first win off his back, a huge relief for Critchley today and his coaching staff, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. This is what they earn the money for, I guess. But they're new to this game as well. Effectively, he's never taken charge of a team on a full-time basis before. He's probably learning every day as much as the players are learning off him in terms of how he wants them to play. So it's very, very early days. It'll be interesting to know, and maybe this is something you could pull up somewhere before Friday, perhaps, Sammy. I'd like to know how many actual sort of first team appearances our starting 11 have, because I'll bet it's not a lot when you compare it to anybody else in the division. And this is what the fans have got to realise, that these guys are pretty much raw recruits. So they're going to need time. So we've got to, if things don't go particularly, as much as we'll get people who last week were doom and glooming and all the rest of it, no doubt at some point in the next 24 hours, we'll get people who'll be thinking we'll end up on 120 points come the end of May or something. So, this is the fickle world of the football fan, but we've got to give these guys a bit of time. And I think if we can give them that in a 10 games, if we're sort of pretty much where we are now or even better, we've got a hell of a chance, I think, because these guys can only get better, I'm sure of it.
Tim, we again, another comment there saying it is a new rebuild. Obviously, loads of stories coming out that there's only 2 players who are still there from when Simon Sadler first came in and signings that you and the interim board made. Sorry, a bit of a dig there. But yeah, it's a completely new team, isn't it? And one that fans have to realise that, yes, we brought these players in, but with any side, it takes time to gel. And we are just seeing just the starts of what this team can do. And today and last week, I thought, despite the loss and the negativity, it was a huge positive for Blackpool and Neil Critchley.
Yeah, there was. I think, in fact, I saw a stat today saying that when we go back to Tranmere, last home game, the one we lost 2-1, did we lose? That I think Maxwell's the only starter, the only player who started today, who and indeed finished, I think, who played in that game. So that sort of like perhaps reinforces how much of a revolution effectively we've seen over the summer in relation to the way in which players have come in and also been moved on. And yeah, I mean, you know, obviously some of the signings that were made the previous summer were very much interim signings in an interim situation, because it really needed us to get the right manager in there and the right philosophy in there, and none of that is going to happen overnight. And I think that's probably testament to why we've seen this complete sea change, because we brought a manager in who is going to play a certain way, and he's going to want the players that play into that system. And the best will in the world, you know, even players who did well for us last year, like Nangele and Feeney, they don't fit into that system. And if they don't fit into that system, we're not going to want them. And so, yeah, it's all very positive for me, and I'm very, very excited for the rest of this season.
Joe, I was watching the game today and went to a few Blackpool games last season, ones I can get to. And for me, just the noticeable difference was just how the ball was on the floor a lot of the time and trying to play our way through. Yes, there's the occasions where you want to go long and really put the defenders under pressure. But again, if Blackpool are going to continue playing that way, they are going to get more wins and losses. And it's what fans want to see. They're paying money to be entertained. And under Neil Critchley, that's going to happen this season.
Absolutely. It's never fun losing, but last week I saw a lot of positive signs. Even though we got beat at Plymouth, we defended very poorly for the opening 10 minutes and ultimately it cost us. We had enough chances to win in that game. It's just one of them really hard day last week. I was still very, very pleased with how we played, though. And I left Bloomfield Road more often than not last season. I mean, I'll take the game against Oxford just out of my head. We won 2-1 and I've absolutely no idea how. We were awful. They absolutely battered us. And I'd rather watch us playing attractive football with, you know, a 60-40% chance of us winning than having to watch the absolute dilge that was served up by Grayson.
Matt, would you share the same comments there with Joe, that you would pay your money, seeking to get money or one-off game to go and watch a side that are going to attack and entertain the fans?
Yeah, I think we've been spoiled in recent history with that type of approach, haven't we? You know, 2009, 10, 11 specifically. So it is encouraging what we've seen so far. I think you know, even when it was sort of 75 minutes in today and we were 2-0, we never really looked 100% comfortable. You know, we looked obviously good, but you know, we do look like we've got the ability to concede a goal. But equally, you think that if we concede one, we can just score another one, which is a nice sort of position to be in. I think one day, hopefully not in too distant future, you know, someone is going to get a bit of a pasting from us. I can see that going to happen already. But equally, I think we might be involved in the odd 3-2, 4-3 or something daft like that as well. Well,
it's better than kind of a 1-0 defeat, or you'd rather see entertainment as fans. And going, just talking on kind of Critchley there, obviously people know works at Fleetwood, but when I was speaking to the manager, Joey Barton, there, he was saying that he needs that 2 to 3 transfer windows to really have his stamp on this team. Do you feel that Critchley still needs that time, 2 seasons, to really put his stamp on where he wants his team to be, Tim?
I think you've got to assume that's how long he needs. Whether he's able to deliver the initial objective, which would be to get into the Championship this season. I mean, I think that remains aspirational. I'm not saying he can't do it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it takes that second season. But you know, if as long as he's supported by us and by Simon and the board at Blackpool, then I'm sure ultimately we're going to get there, because you can't, you can see the philosophy, you can see everything we're trying to do, and it seems to be the right thing, and it would. I just don't see it failing, to be honest. And that's I think because he does instill this confidence. He's very highly educated in a football sense, and he's got probably the biggest book on young players in the English league. He knows everybody. He'll have his tentacles out there and keeping an eye on all sorts of development. And we are going to benefit from that. And whether it be this season, realistically, probably more likely next season. But it's going to be a good ride in the meantime. I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. And that's, as a Blackpool fan, that's what you want, isn't it?
Joe, I can see you nodding your head again. I'm guessing you agree with what Tim's saying.
Absolutely. I think we're already like more than 50% there, squad-wise. I'd say 60, maybe 65% there. I'd say we're 3 or 4 players away from being a promotion-winning team. I think the early signs are very, very encouraging. My only criticism, and it is like literally a minute criticism, is Neil, you are allowed to sign players over the age of 25.
Critchley, if you're listening, Joe says you can sign players over the age of 25. But again, that's a good comment that we probably do need that 1 or 2 experienced heads in this side, Joe, to really push on. I'm gutted that Charlie's obviously gone to Dundee. Congratulations to him on the move. But for me, it's a type of his player. Some say never go back. But for me, he would have really been that catalyst to really push us forward, knows what it takes to win promotion, knows what it means to the fans, knows what it means to the community. And if we can get that player in, Joe, it really could just push us that from you saying 60% to possibly 80% and really been up there at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. I still think that this season's going to be a success. At the beginning of the season, I had finishing top 10. I reevaluated that after the first 2 games. I definitely think that we're going to finish in the playoffs.
Matt, where do you think? Do you think it does need 2 seasons? Is this season too early, or is it ever too early to be promoted?
I don't think it is ever too early. I mean, I think we'd all take promotion, wouldn't we? But it will be a heck of a ride. I think. I think there is a few tweaks still to be done in the squad, and obviously Mr. Sadler has backed his manager, and I think we've moved on 16, 17 players and brought in 10 or 11, 12 or whatever it is now. So as Tim mentioned earlier, it's definitely been a sea change. How much more needs to be done by the end of the window? And then obviously you've got the loan market and stuff. I think it's about fine tuning from here on in. And whether we need to do anything in January obviously remains to be seen. But you would like to think that what he's got is not far off what he needs. And it just comes down to, what he wants and whether they're available. Really, there's definitely, I agree that there's definitely a call or a need for a little bit of experience somewhere in the squad, whether that be in the starting 11 or in the actual 22 that we have. Charlie could have done a job. I could see why they actually went potentially for the lad Grant, who was playing for Swindon today, because he did a good job in the front, just in front of the back 4, broke the play up, played it nice and tight. So you could see why we sort of looked at that sort of player. Whether we get somebody like that who might have a few more years on his side and a bit more mobility, because I think that ultimately today it looked like he was chasing sort of a few shadows after about 70 minutes. But we're not far off, and I'd like to think that we would be pushing up towards the top 6 as well come the end of the season. And let's do it this year. Why wait? Let's be greedy.
Let's be greedy. We'll finish on that note. Again, Matt, Tim, Joe, thank you for joining me this evening. Obviously, Blackpool picking up their first 3 points of the League One campaign this season with a 2-0 victory over Richard Welland's Swindon Town. So hopefully they can go and pick up 3 points next weekend away at Gillingham. So again, once again, thank you for joining us. Thanks for all the comments coming in on all the Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And we'll see you on Friday for the preview show for Gillingham.